Hey, welcome back to Change of Address, my ongoing project to deliver each president's inaugural address in order leading up to January 20th, 2021. I'm Colin Rafferty, author of Execute the Office, Essays with Presidents, forthcoming in February from Baobab Press. It is 5:38 p.m. on December 14th, 2020, and I just got a notification on my phone, which is how the news arrives along the wires these days, that the Electoral College has officially certified Biden as the next president of the United States. So there is another step along the way to the 60th inaugural address. But for today, it is Ulysses S. Grant's second inaugural address. The news of his confirmation by the Electoral College would have been first delivered by telegraph and then shown up in the newspapers. But it is a time of both stability and change in the union, right? Stability in the sense that he's reelected, right? It's his second term. He is, and I've repeated this a billion times yesterday, but he's the only president between Jackson and Woodrow Wilson who serves 2 full consecutive terms. But it's also a time of great change because the Reconstruction is going on. There's a significant number of African-American senators and representatives in Congress. The amendments to the Constitution that are extending rights to the newly freed slaves are being ratified and approved by the states. The 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments, right, have kind of radically remade the concept of who we consider to be an American. Still a lot of ways to go, right? Women aren't going to get the vote for another, 50 to 100 years, but still things are moving. So, as are we, right? History keeps moving on, as today's news suggests. So, without further ado, here is Ulysses S. Grant's second inaugural address. Fellow citizens, under Providence, I have been called a second time to act as executive over this great nation. It has been my endeavor in the past to maintain all the laws and, so far as lay in my power, to act for the best interests of the whole people. My best efforts will be given in the same direction in the future, aided, I trust, by my 4 years' experience in the office. When my first term of the office of Chief Executive began, the country had not recovered from the effects of a great internal revolution, and 3 of the former states of the Union had not been restored to their federal relations. It seemed wise to me that no new questions should be raised so long as that condition of affairs existed. Therefore, the past 4 years, so far as I could control events, have been consumed in the effort to restore harmony, public credit, commerce, and all the arts of peace and progress. It is my firm conviction that the civilized world is tending towards republicanism, or government by the people through their chosen representatives, and that our own great republic is destined to be the guiding star to all others. Under our republic, we support an army less than that of any European power of any standing, and a navy less than that of at least 5 of them. There could be no extension of territory on the continent which would call for an increase of this force, but rather might such extension enable us to diminish it. The theory of government changes with general progress. Now that the telegraph is made available for communicating thought, together with rapid transit by steam, all parts of a continent are made contiguous for all purposes of government, and communication between the extreme limits of the country made easier than it was throughout the old 13 states at the beginning of our national existence. The effects of the late civil strife have been to free the slave and make him a citizen, yet he is not possessed of the civil rights which citizenship should carry with it. This is wrong, and should be corrected. To this correction I stand committed, so far as executive influence can avail. Social equality is not a subject to be legislated upon, nor shall I ask that anything be done to advance the social status of the colored man, except to give him a fair chance to develop what there is good in him, give him access to the schools, and when he travels, let him feel assured that his conduct will regulate the treatment and fare he will receive. The states lately at war with the general government are now happily rehabilitated, and no executive control is exercised in any one of them that would not be exercised in any other state under like circumstances. In the first year of the past admission, the proposition came upon for the admission of Santo Domingo as a territory of the Union. It was not a question of my seeking, but was a proposition from the people of Santo Domingo, and which I entertained. I believe now, as I did then, that it was for the best interest of this country, for the people of Santo Domingo, and all concerned, that the proposition should be received favorably. It was, however, rejected constitutionally, and therefore the subject was never brought up again by me. In the future, while I hold my present office, the subject of acquisition of territory must have the support of the people before I will recommend any proposition looking to such acquisition. I say here, however, that I do not share in the apprehension held by many as to the danger of governments becoming weakened and destroyed by reason of their extension of territory. Commerce, education, and rapid transit of thought and matter by telegraph and steam have changed all this. Rather do I believe that our great Maker is preparing the world, in his own good time, to become one nation, speaking one language, and when armies and navies will be no longer required. My efforts in the future will be directed to the restoration of good feeling between the different sections of our common country, to the restoration of our currency to a fixed value as compared with the world's standard of values, gold, and, if possible, to a par with it, to the construction of cheap routes of transit throughout the land, to the end that the products of all may find a market and leave a living remuneration to the producer, to the maintenance of friendly relations with all our neighbors and with distant nations, to the reestablishment of our commerce and share in the trade carrying upon the ocean, to the encouragement of such manufacturing industries as can be economically pursued in this country, to the end that the exports of home products and industries may pay for our imports, the only sure method returning to and permanently maintaining a specie basis, to the elevation of labor, and, by a humane course, to bring the aborigines of the country under the benign influences of education and civilization. It is either this or war of extermination. Well, that's a change, isn't it? Wars of extermination engaged in by people pursuing commerce and all industrial pursuits are expensive even against the weakest people, and are demoralizing and wicked. Our superiority of strength and advantages should make us lenient toward the Indian. The wrong inflicted upon him should be taken into account and the balance placed to his credit. The moral view of the question should be considered, and the question asked, cannot the Indian be made a useful and productive member of society by proper teaching and treatment? If the effort is made in good faith, we will stand better before the civilized nations of the earth and in our own consciences for having made it. All these things are not to be accomplished by one individual, but they will receive my support and such recommendations as to Congress as will in my judgment best serve them to carry them into effect. I beg your support and encouragement. It has been, and is, my earnest desire to correct abuses that have grown up in the civil service of the country. To secure this reformation, rules regulating methods of appointment and promotions were established and have been tried. My efforts for such reformation shall be continued to the best of my judgment. The spirit of the rules adopted will be maintained. I acknowledge before this assemblage, representing, as it does, every section of our country, the obligation I am under to my countrymen for the great honor they have conferred on me by returning me to the highest office within their gift, and the further obligation resting on me to render to them the best services within my power. This I promise, looking forward with the greatest anxiety to the day when I shall be released from responsibilities that are at times almost overwhelming, and from which I have had scarcely a respite since the eventful firing upon Fort Sumter in April 1861 to the present day. My services were then tendered and accepted under the first call for troops growing out of that event. I did not ask for place or position, and was entirely without influence or the acquaintance of persons of influence, but was resolved to perform my part in a struggle threatening the very existence of the nation. I performed a conscientious duty without asking promotion or command, and without a revengeful feeling toward any section or individual. Notwithstanding this, throughout the war, and from my candidacy for my present office in 1868 to the close of the last presidential campaign, I have been the subject of abuse and slander scarcely ever equaled in political history, which today I feel that I can afford to disregard in view of your verdict, which I gratefully accept as my vindication. An interesting final note there for Ulysses S. Grant's second inaugural address. But that is his final inaugural address. The Republicans will keep the office as they will actually for quite some time, with a few exceptions. With the next person, our most impressively bearded and most amusingly named president, Rutherford B. Hayes. So thanks for tuning in. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share, review on iTunes. I don't even know how any of this works anymore. Thanks for tuning in, though. I'll see you tomorrow.